But where we're going to start the show today is, I guess, with some surprising news, and that's Odell Beckham Jr., who I have to give a round of applause and clap it up for Odell Beckham Jr., because he got $15 million guaranteed, and with incentives, he could get an extra $3 million. If my math's right with my Temple University education, that's $18 million total. So good job for me on the math. I am a horrible math student when I was in college. But for Odell Beckham Jr., I see a lot of people right away rush to the assumption that this means Lamar Jackson is definitely back. I don't necessarily agree with that, because Odell, he gets paid, and I know he was playing really well in that Super Bowl run, caught the touchdown in the Super Bowl, unfortunately tore his ACL. What was in the news all throughout the year was basically just lowering the bait for Jerry Jones, and they were having all that drama with the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, and he just wasn't healthy, so no deal ever came to fruition. So it's actually impressive that Odell, who has not been great in a long time, but is still a good player, was able to go get $15 million a year, up to $18 million in incentives. But the reason why I say to everyone, pump the brakes, just because we see this video of Odell and Lamar didn't look happy to be in this club, partying over the weekend with Odell coming to the Baltimore Ravens, because Lamar still needs to get his own contract. And I don't think the Ravens are anywhere close. You look just back at last week, you have guys that have been in this league and well-respected in this league for a long time, in John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta, needing Chad Steele, the PR person for the Ravens, to hold their hands in a press conference. No questions about Lamar Jackson, none whatsoever. Like, those are grown men. They could answer the questions. All you do when you have a Qualcomm moment, if you're Matt Harvey, if you have a Dr. Teals moment, if you're Aaron Donald, you have a PR person, or the person answering the questions only wanting to do the plug, it never works and it just causes more attention. In this case, Lamar Jackson was the plug, and it was a simple question. It was something along the lines of, if with Lamar's status uncertain, are you going to be exploring quarterbacks in the draft or in the first round of the draft? That's a very easy question to answer. But when you have a PR person saying, yeah, we're not taking any Lamar questions, this is a pre-draft availability, it makes you look like a minor league organization. And it's crazy to even say that about the Baltimore Ravens, because for the last 20-something years, the Baltimore Ravens have been one of the more well-respected franchises in the NFL, but they're looking like a minor league organization with that nonsense and that hogwash that did go on last week. So, yes, Odell going to the Ravens, it's low risk, high reward. I know people are going to get all caught up in $15 million guaranteed. It's not my money, and their receiving room is not great. You have Mark Andrews, a tremendous tight end. You have Rashad Bateman, who so far has not been able to stay on the field healthy. So I'm okay with bringing in Odell, and maybe it does make Lamar say, all right, I'm excited. I like what they're doing. But at the end of the day, Lamar's not going to be happy until he gets what he wants. And I don't think Lamar is ever going to get the $250 million or $230 million fully guaranteed. But Kyler Murray got a $189.5 fully guaranteed. So he should bare minimum be able to get $190 fully guaranteed, probably north of that, like $200 or more fully guaranteed. But I'm not still convinced just because you pop champagne, you're celebrating with Odell Beckham, that Odell is going to the Ravens, that Lamar gets a long-term extension done. And quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Lamar is back in Baltimore this year, playing on the tag, and then we're in the same mess this time next year, except it will be on the second tag, and then there's even more of a pressure building on the Ravens to either get the deal done or you trade Lamar, because if Lamar Jackson next year goes through that second season on the tag, and it's very rare that anyone ever tags someone 3 times because of how expensive it is, you can't afford Lamar to just walk 2 off seasons from now for basically a compensatory 3rd-round pick. So this deal of Odell Beckham Jr. doesn't guarantee anything for Lamar Jackson, because the guaranteed money has not been showed yet to Lamar. And also, with now 2 weeks away from the draft, I think that is like right at the draft, or maybe after the draft, is when the first domino or two are going to start to fall, where let's say a team like the Raiders or Tennessee doesn't move up and get their guy, maybe then they start to get the ball rolling on at least talking to Lamar, because right now it seems that no one that is allowed to talk to Lamar is actually talking to Lamar right now. And there's really been a stalemate where there's been no conversations or no progression with this Lamar Jackson contract. So where I'm getting at here is, yes, you could acknowledge that Lamar may be happy with this signing. And I saw the Jordan Schultz, who I know is a friend of Maggie and Perloff, report Lamar Jackson and Odell Beckham have had multiple conversations during Odell's free agency about teaming up together and winning a Super Bowl with the Ravens, according to sources familiar with the situation. There's still business to handle with Lamar, but this is a significant step. So, yeah, Lamar may be fired up. Odell may be fired up. The Ravens may have said, okay, we want to bring in Odell because Lamar wants him, and hopefully that could ease the tensions in relationship. But if you don't eventually give this guy what he wants, you're just going to punt the ball down the road for another year, and it really doesn't start to get crazy, and it really doesn't start to get exciting until we get that Schefter, Pelissero, Rappaport report that this team offered Lamar this amount of money, this amount of years outside of the Ravens, and Lamar has accepted, and then it goes back to the Ravens, and they either accept the deal and Lamar's back and then this is done with, which hopefully that's the way that this goes, or Lamar gets traded for 2 first-round picks and he's on a different team. So if this was Odell like 3-4 years ago when he was a bona fide number 1 wide receiver and he was one of the more entertaining players in the league with the one-handed catches and the personality and the persona and all that, this would be different. Today, if you're like a Ravens fan, you'd be jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store, because you would think logically, you go get a big-time player in Odell, that's going to entice Lamar to stay. But right now, Odell is no longer a big-time player. This is not me saying Odell stinks, Odell is horrible, but he is not a great wide receiver anymore in the NFL. He can still be good. He can still be very good. But it's not a move that moves the needle where if I'm Lamar saying, now I have to re-sign with the Baltimore Ravens. Because you look around the AFC, it's going to be fascinating to see who the 7 teams are that go to the playoffs this year. Like, the Bills will be in the playoffs. The Chiefs, here's the hot take of the day, are going to be in the playoffs. Jaguars are going to win that division. You go around and you look at the landscape of the AFC, the Bengals will win the North. So, like, those are 4 division winners right there. Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, and then the Jaguars. Chargers should be a playoff team. Jets, assuming they get the Rodgers deal done, should be a playoff team. And Miami, if Tua could stay healthy, playoff caliber opponent. You look at a team like the Steelers, I think they're going to get better. The Ravens, always a threat to make the playoffs. Could there be a little redemption for Russ and Sean Payton? We'll have to wait and see. And there's always a surprise or two along the way. So this doesn't really change my outlook at all on the Ravens for this year. It made them slightly better, but it's not like Super Bowl, here come the Baltimore Ravens. But also on the Lamar front, we still don't have any clarity on this. And it's amazing to me how so many people are saying today, this means Lamar is coming back. Okay, maybe he comes back for this year, but what about the long term? Because last time I checked, he doesn't have a long-term deal done with the Baltimore Ravens, and whoever you want to say it's on Lamar, doesn't have an agent, or it's on the Ravens, they're lowballing him. We're now on our 3rd off season of this conversation. So just because you land Odell doesn't mean it's over. Lamar has met the finish line, and this is done. It doesn't mean that. They still have to hammer out a deal, and until I see that extension, I'm going to tend to believe that it's more likely that the Ravens don't get the deal done with Lamar than they actually do.